bringing you inside the USL Championship and League One.
Segmer's got there. Marquinhos! He's been knocking on the door. He knocks it down.
Diving into all the biggest stories and top headlines.
You are ripping and roaring today.
This is USL All Access.
It's almost impossible to recreate that level of magic.
With Mike Watts and Devon Kerr on Sirius XM FC.
Welcome, everybody, to a new edition of USL All Access. A very happy Tuesday evening, wherever you might be. Coming up this week, Indy 11 now make it 7 consecutive victories in the league, 9 in all competitions. We take a look at a deal that we knew about last week but weren't quite able to talk about until we were on air on CBS Sports Network on Wednesday, but still substantial enough to have a chat about. Also, an oldie but a goodie, Dom Dwyer re-debuts in the league, this time an actual league player, not just some guy on loan. All right, with Devon Kerr and Emmett McConnell at the controls, Mike Watts, welcome to the show. Dev, a ton to chat about this week, a lot of excitement and anticipation and players in new places, and I'm just over the moon.
Yep, I'd like to start with something over your right shoulder, our left if you're looking at the screen. Top shelf, next to the March, I'm assuming it's a March Madness sign.
It is.
Is that from the Big East tournament?
It is from March Madness.
Well, I figured just coming after it. Like, was it part of something that went on at the Garden?
It did. It was the Elite Eight and the Sweet 16. Funny story about that. They just put these big signs all over the Garden. And then as soon as it's over, it's like a mad dash, a free-for-all for everyone to go try and grab the sign that they most enjoy.
They let you take it.
I don't know that it's a let so much as everyone does it.
So,
but they're going to get trashed either way. So it's one of those, like, go grab a sign. And,
yeah, it's like you and I borrowing placards after some of the Champions Cup finals.
Like
That's fair.
There's a buddy of mine that enjoys indulging in certain things, and I made sure to get him the no smoking sign.
Oh,
so
what's up there? And what is that bottle? Brownish in nature next to the Madness sign. Top corner. What is that?
That is a condiment that is not offensive to my sensibilities.
So it's not white. Keep going.
That is stadium mustard. That is brown, Cleveland-born mustard.
And so that everybody knows the not white comment, Mike Watts does not indulge pretty much in anything that is white in substance from a culinary standpoint. He doesn't do mayo, doesn't do coleslaw.
Yogurt.
Remind me, you don't do yogurt. Do you do cream cheese?
No chance.
No chance. What about cheesecake?
No.
It's more yellowish anyway.
Doesn't matter. Got it.
So that's some kind of mustard that is Cleveland based. Is it actually good, or is it just like a local thing?
It's very tart.
It's unique
I'm trying
in flavor.
to find the right. Yeah. I mean, it's if you weren't from Cleveland, you might wonder why you're eating it. Which is why it's on my shelf.
Well, a lot of people say that about curry ketchup from Germany, so I get it.
True enough.
Totally get it. This is, I said this coming in. These are the conversations people want to hear. Bottom line.
On that note, let's talk about what people actually came here to hear about. Dev, let's chat about the big transfer from last week. We spoke about it on TV, but it's such a brief moment in time that we get to do so. FC Tulsa making a major move. They moved Justin Portillo to Sacramento. Look, for the Republic right now, weird moment, right? Russell Cicerone should be on another, let's call it 6 to 10 weeks if we're going off the initial timeline. Rodrigo Lopez, ACL tear, out for the remainder of the year. They're just starting to see the best of Kieran Phillips. Christian Brano's just getting fit. I think with Portillo's top 15 in the league, minutes, appearances, assists, he provides you an element you didn't have. What do you make of whether this is a replacement or just a logical progression for the Republic to bring him in?
Can start with the fact that I can almost promise you Mark Briggs and everybody at Sacramento Republic is probably going to think twice about some of the words that they've used in a respectful way, because going into the Open Cup match that saw Roro Lopez go down, the conversation was, for the first time under Mark Briggs' tenure, we are going to have a healthy front line. Well, the Cicerone news was coming out, then Roro Lopez goes down, and so all of a sudden it's quite ironic that you now have the opportunity to go get someone to at least add to the attack a little bit. chance creation for me is everything for him. It's kind of funny that we actually recorded a segment last week and then realized that the news wasn't public, so we had to go back and redo it.
That is true. If anyone happened to notice a cut in the tape, it was because we had been told that the news was likely to come on Tuesday. It did not officially clear until Wednesday night, right when we were going on TV. And it's worth noting, some fans were able to figure out well in advance, by well in You tweeted it like an hour. Yeah, you tweeted it like an hour before kickoff, and like while we were in the first half, everyone's like, "Oh, it's Portillo. It's already on the website."
Yeah, a piece of advice, by the way. But both, I think this actually rests on the league front office. I could be wrong. It could be Sacramento Republic. But piece of advice: if we're trying to break news, maybe leave some breadcrumbs. Don't necessarily tie the player's background to the club specifically on the website. Justin Portillo is not Roro Lopez, and that's okay. I would say that what you get out of Roro Lopez is the ability to go and chase the game. And while Justin Portillo gives you that in certain areas, one wonders how high they're going to allow him to step into this. My idea would be a little bit more of a tight-knit triangle within the midfield to play off of three, and it puts more of an onus on the two strikers, but Kieran Phillips has proved that he can handle that for sure. Trevor Ammon's right there as well. They've created a nice relationship, whether they're on the field together or separated. I don't know what it looks like in the long run, but if you had the ability to go get someone to add more glue into the midfield, to find a way, whether deep lying or, in a box-to-box midfielder type, to try and chase this game a little bit, it's going to be Justin Portillo. Chance creation, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's 4th in the last 3 seasons. You can't go back any further because when you start to jump and you go back to his time at the Monarchs and you go back to his time at the Charleston Battery, there's obviously a gap because he went to MLS for a little bit. But his numbers that he put up then were actually quite similar. Clean on the ball, service from the outside, his ability to ping 30, 40-yard balls for me and link-up play is probably where this fits best for this team. It's very smart business by Sacramento Republic. Again, Nick Ross is great. Luis Felipe in the midfield is great. Justin Portillo is great. What does that relationship now look like, and how quickly can you get it up to speed?
One important note as they bring him in, they are still alive in the Open Cup going into the quarters. He is cup tied to FC Tulsa.
Unavailable. Bingo.
So you can't use him in the round of 8, and if you happen to get through semis or finals. So that's a major loss for Sacramento within this. But ultimately, if their goal is to put a star above the crest for the first time since their first season in 2014, that's where he's going to prove useful as they go through the year. All right. The other news isn't really news because it happened a month and a half ago, but the Oakland Roots did finally get Dom Dwyer out on the field, played about, 15 minutes or something.
12.
33 years old at this stage. Look, when he was just a youngin' coming out of Sporting Kansas City and ultimately loaned to Orlando in their USL days, this is a guy who is up for the MVP, although he was never going to win it as a loanee. For reasons that, make sense to some. What's happened over the last 3 years since he left Orlando City is a little bit journeyman, 36 games, 4 goals. Ultimately, I have on good authority that multiple lower division teams had attempted to bring him in and that he was a bit resistant to that. Spent some time in Atlanta. Primarily got time when Joseph Martinez got hurt a couple of years ago. He was out of the game last year. Outside of everything off the field, on the field, I don't know what's left. He's a big name. You could sell tickets. In theory, I don't know that we're going to know for probably another month what Dom Dwyer actually has in the tank.
I would say that that's fair. And Gavin Glinton was very clear about the fact that it's taken them time to get him up to speed just to give you the minutes you saw on the weekend. So that gives you an idea that there's a long way to go to getting him into a regular kind of routine with this squad where midweek games, congestion, and just rotation in general, even on form, that you're going to bring him and throw him into the lineup. I don't see him chasing 90 for quite some time. There's nothing wrong with that. I will say that in the brief window that we saw on the weekend, he did great. 12 minutes on the pitch. He was a disruptor. He always has been. So that wasn't shades of what we have seen. He was very active, making guys feel uncomfortable, got into a couple of tackles, drew a couple of fouls, and helped kill this game off against a Rowdies team that was just trying to get on the ball. And a lot of their success is predicated on their distribution coming off the back line. If we see that continue, you're looking at an opportunity for a striker up top and a Roots team that need that presence there, number one, but also just an added depth for a team that over the last couple of weeks, I'm very impressed by what Gavin Glinton has done there so far. Small sample size. I get it. It's only 4 games, but 3 wins on the last 4. And we'll break it down in segment 2. I'm very impressed by what they've done. And if Dom Dwyer can just give them 50% of what he was capable of, and I think it's going to be more, they're going to be well off with him up top.
Yeah, and the reality is I'm not privy to the contract. A guy who's been out for a year, it was probably the right price for Oakland as well.
Well, yeah, and recognize too, Mike, just to add on to his stops previously, every other place, and it kind of fits into some of what's going on in Oakland, but every other place was going through a transitional moment. So that's a recent amount of experience that he's going to have. I'm referencing his time in Toronto that saw the departure of Greg Vanney to LA Galaxy. There was this influx of what is the staff going to look like? Obviously, Bob Bradley came in. Things turned over. His front office staff turned over when he went to Atlanta. Gonzalo Pineda was there, but the results have been up and down. They've changed some of their supporting staff, and now he's in Oakland, right? Real quickly, they've gone from Juan Guerra to Noah Delgado to Gavin Glinton. And guys in the dressing room are going to be looking around going, how do we kind of turn this thing around? Couple of results. While he hasn't been on the pitch, he has been around them, around the training ground. You can't really put a price on a guy that's experienced that before, and certainly at such a high level for some of these younger players in championship play.
Yep. Oakland 3 wins out of 4. They had Michi Nader-Chari from Haiti, who had gotten some time up front. Now we'll see what Dom Dwyer can provide. Meanwhile, Indy 11. This has become the story of the league right now. It is now 7 consecutive wins, a 1-0 win. Jack Blake scoring his 8th goal, 5 now from the spot. Perfect 5 for 5. 1-0 over Birmingham Legion on the weekend. They're now one of 11 teams to run off 7 wins in a row in a single season all time. It comes on the heels of getting blown out by Louisville and Charleston back in early and mid-April. I've had the chance to speak with Sean McCauley a couple times in the interim. That was a wake-up call for them. For a team that wants to play offensive football, that is really his DNA. They made the trade with Miami that I think ended up so far paying a lot of dividends. Ben Squared coming in, Mines and Ofemu. Ofemu's been excellent.
Ben Squared.
Ben Squared. Mines has been solid as well in wide areas. Like, it's changed the whole thing for them. They've also had the schedule lighten up a little bit in terms of quality of opponent. All that said, they're now 3 points off Charleston for second, 6 from Louisville, and further away than both of those from the playoff line.
Tactical change that's allowed them as well, Mike, as the season has gone on. You drop into this 3, so much freedom for your wingbacks, Aiden Stanley and Yunus Boudadi, who are very comfortable in high up positions. We saw that at any stop that they made in USL Championship play. The relationships that have continued to get better within the midfield. The team reminds me a little bit, I'm saying a little bit, of San Antonio in 22, but better on the ball. Now, that San Antonio team was about disruption. They were about restarts, and they were about compressing the field to their advantage so that people looked at it as, oh, they go and win 50-50s and they're off and running. But what they forgot about was their ability to break the field down 35, 40 yards and in once they won it. And there was some really pretty football played there. Defensively, this is a different team. They sit a little bit deeper. They have to go a little bit further, but they do have that disruptive type feel with their press or their pressing and pressure up top, depending on where they're at in the field, winning these tactical advantages to themselves. And you got guys that are really clean on the ball. But the system is not predicated about success of one player. So you mentioned Jack Blake, who's 5 for 5, 8 goals on the season. I went back and looked at the numbers, Mike, and here's what popped up. If you remove Jack Blake's goals, you still have, where did my notes go? That's good. I erased them already.
I didn't touch nothing.
That's happened. Apparently, I didn't write it down correctly. 5 points, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, still a playoff team. Sorry, I didn't write the numbers down. They're still a playoff team. They only have actually one added loss in this window of 11 games unbeaten. They would still be in the U.S. Open Cup quarterfinals. What I'm getting at here is one piece, if you will, can drop off, not have a great game, not be available, and you can still find a way to replicate it because of the system that Sean McCauley has put in place. I'm very impressed by them. I've always been high on them. We said that it would get better, and all of a sudden, they're arguably the hottest team in USL Championship play.
So Indy's playing as well as anybody. The team they knocked out of the Open Cup is actually in a pretty rough spot at the moment. San Antonio's above the line. Let's not act like the world's falling apart, but it feels a little bit tenuous at present. You and I had them on Wednesday night against El Paso at home. Very rare home loss. Deflected free kick goal is the difference. Then Diogo Pacheco scores a brace against Tulsa on the road. It's the first time since 2020 that San Antonio has lost back-to-back games, only the second time under Alan Marcina. You know, you and I spoke with Alan, and to a certain extent, I hear him when he says we don't make excuses, but the excuses is pretty well papered all over their game notes. 5 down to injury, 4 more away on international duty, only 12 pros in their 18 when you and I had them on Wednesday night. You had a chance to talk to Mitchell Tainter about it, State of the Union of San Antonio last week, and I suggest people go back and take a listen to what the captain of the team had to say. But, you know, Alan Marcina made clear going into the week, if we get 6 points, we could be talking about a home playoff game being in third place. If we get none of the 6 points, we're talking about, are we still going to be above the playoff line? And right now they're part of that log jam right around 17 points for the playoff line because they went over. And that is one of the most shocking sort of stats I've seen in a long time, that they haven't had a 0-point week in 4 years. That's nuts.
It's pretty crazy. No, you're not panicked. It is crazy for sure. But to me, it's just a blip. The question is how long is this gap going to continue? I believe in what they do there. I believe in the changes that they made. We talked to Mitch Tainter about it. We talked to Alan Marcina about it. You and I have discussed it multiple times on this show. But think about the result for a second. Remove most of what you said. Let's just go back to the game against El Paso and the trend that was for them, right? Brian Clarehout out. Firing of their coach. What was it, 3 wins on the season going into the San Antonio game? 2, if I'm not mistaken. It took everything to go right for that El Paso team. And to have all of those players that you just referenced be out and to not be able to score for El Paso to find a way to win on the road. That's a combination of 2. I get it. But I'm just saying that I think the margins are a lot closer in terms of success than people think. And that if they can just get some of those bodies healthy, I know it's a big if, Mike, but you get some of those bodies healthy, I'm not worried at all. There are a couple of teams around USL Championship that have got a full list of available players right now, and I don't know what they're going to do because they have nowhere near the capability of what this San Antonio team does. The back line, good, needs help because of the lack of chemistry in front of them. And when you're rotating everything, it's simple to go, oh, how do we find the goals? But that system is all based upon the fact that they're all working together in one direction, trying to apply a pressure on these pivotal moments. And they missed that in the El Paso game. They've missed it in a couple of games now. Get these guys back, get them healthy, and you get success. It's that simple.
The rest of June for them at Indy, at Birmingham, and versus New Mexico. So the number 1 team on a 7-game win streak, and having to go to Birmingham in June is no one's idea of a good time. Dev, before we go to break, a couple things we want to make mention of. Bob Lilly to Nashville. So the rumor mill from someone with 600 followers put out into the social ether. Pittsburgh Soccer Now, who do a great job covering the Hounds, confirmed that Bob Lilly had no contact with Nashville as of Sunday afternoon. All due respect, I called the Fox game between Atlanta and Nashville immediately following the dismissal of Gary Smith. Bob Lilly is not the guy they're looking for. I don't know quite a better way to put it. I would be blown away if that was ever a real conversation. Not because of Bob, but because of what Nashville is described as what they're looking for. That's what I would suggest.
I would agree. Only thing I would say is Nashville describing what they're looking for. I'll believe that when it happens. When they talk about it, yeah, I'll believe that when it happens. When they talk about an international search and they're going to invest and blah, 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 I think there are some really good people at that club. I don't think Gary Smith was the main reason that they were having issues. I'm certainly part of the equation, absolutely. But I'm not going to get into the Nashville stuff. It's super deep. Let's just say that Nashville doesn't exactly spend a ton nor chase some of these pipe dreams that they've come out in the public eye and said. So that's why I lean towards maybe a bit more of a possibility than yes. Bob's also made Pittsburgh his home. I mean, what they've done with the ownership group there, what is it, Propolis?
Yeah, I mean Tuffy.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
The training facility. I forget the name.
Oh,
and I
sure.
apologize. But John Krasinski, by the way, Pittsburgh now, he does everything up in that area, and I would be shocked if the information that he has put out disputing the fact that he's talked to Bob and he said no. I would be shocked if that was contrary to the fact because he's usually spot on.
Yeah, no doubt. Dev, is there any other rumor mill you want to just pump real quick?
I got to tell you, it's an interesting theory floated by Matt Doyle, the armchair analyst from MLS, but he tweeted out a shot from John Morrissey at USL Tactics. And the question was, is there a chance that we could see Eric Quill headed back to Dallas? Now, recognize that this is a guy that was ingrained in FC Dallas, right? The youth academy level, certainly up into North Texas. People were complaining within the Dallas group about him not having first team experience. I would look the other direction. And if you looked at Luchi Gonzalez, if you looked at Nico Estevez, neither one of them had head coaching experience prior to being named the head of those organizations. Now, Luchi, of course, with the San Jose Earthquakes trying to turn things around, but neither one of them were hired already being in charge of a team, regardless of division. So I do see that it kind of floats toward Eric Quill's side a little bit there. Also, he's very in tune and familiar with what that ownership group wants, certainly at the academy level, how to maintain success. It's an interesting theory. I've heard one comment behind the scenes that it's not that far-fetched, but apparently no conversation has been had just of yet. That person's pretty trustworthy on the source side, so I'd believe him.
Can you imagine if New Mexico gets both their head coaches, now 3 head coaches, picked off in a 2.5-year span?
Pretty impressive. I would say that it's probably more telling about the individuals themselves than the organization because love Troy, think he's got great ideas. I do believe in him as a manager, but he kind of backed his way into a spot, whereas Eric Quill, if this went that direction and he was hired, would have been courted in this situation. But it is still a testament to what Trevisani has built out there. The Lobos. Somos unidos.
Somos unidos until you're not. Real quick, quick shout on TST. Our played-in teammates here on SiriusXM are rich now. Congrats to Heather O'Reilly and Lori Lindsay winning the TST 7v7 tournament on the women's side. $1 million goal from Talia Della Peruta, who I've called a number of her games at North Carolina. This is wild to me. Kat Whitehill, Lori Lindsay, Casey White, Jill Lloyden, Heather O'Reilly. That is 5 former partners of mine on air who all just got $40,000 checks handed to them by Heyo after that game. Congratulations to U.S. women on picking up the dub. The TSD men, Chad Porch, who played once upon a time for the Charlotte Independents, scores the winner in La Bombonera out here winning the whole thing. We don't, unbelievable. Take that, Sergio Aguero. Take that, Nani.
Are you hitting me up for a $40,000 check being one of your partners? Is that what this is about?
I don't get a cut of the 40,000. I want to see you win the 40,000. When Jamie Watson and Ricky Lopez Espin flamed out in the group stage, I went, yeah, that makes sense.
Oh my goodness, shots fired. But just to cap that, yeah, you could say it. You could say it.
Congratulations to Jamie, who's now scored in all 4 divisions of the pyramid and
the TST. And you got an extra week and a half of fitness in. There you go.
Yes.
I wanted to add a couple of little tidbits here before we go to break. Just a shout to some of the youth levels here. Here's why. We've seen at the academy level so many individuals, Mike, trying to chase success, jumping from one academy to the next, trying to promote themselves, trying to get better as an individual. And while I get that, this sport in this country was founded, I mean, its existence, it's a team sport, right? And it has always been, for the most part, proven that if you can find a way to create chemistry from within, find a way to get brotherhood together, that not necessarily the greater sum of all the parts are going to have success. So when you look at the final, Bombonera and FC Nani, the backgrounds of the Bombonera team were so interesting to me. You had 7 players from the Chihuahua Savage. By the way, if you've lived under a rock, that's an MASL team. It's an indoor soccer team. They're back-to-back champions. 7 players there. 5 from the Monterey Flash indoor team as well. 4 from the Mexican futsal national team. 4 from the 7v7 Mexican national team, and 2 from the beach national team. The reason I bring those up, obviously, ton of talent. Obviously, they've had success at a pretty superior level, but not playing for Porto or the Portuguese national team or Manchester United. And so if you looked at Nani's team, you would have gone, that team should blow them out of the water. And yet, what these guys from Bombonera have been able to do together for such an extended period of time have enabled them to find ways to get results when all the individuals on the other side of the field, in theory, should have taken them down. Remember, as you're chasing your dream in this day and age, that just because you're great at where you are doesn't mean the grass is always greener going to the next location, to a quote-unquote better team with better players. Because I've played on teams as well, where the guys around me, when we found success, it was much more suited to the group that we had than trying to chase something different for what you think is the greater good. Believe in the process, believe in your coaches, because all of those young men and those individuals around you are not individuals at the end of the day. You have the ability as a collective to be better than anyone that's put on that battlefield across from you.
Beautiful sentiment, and I'm still ticked off no one asked me to play on their team.
Here's 40 grand. Be quiet.
Okay. When we come back, look around the results of the weekend of note. It's coming up next here on USL All Access.
Let's get back to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody. USL All Access. Miss any part of the show, it's available on the Sirius XM app. It's also available tomorrow on the USL YouTube page. With Devon, Mike, let's go through the weekend. Plenty of results that are worthy of note. Start with Louisville City, 2-1 win over North Carolina FC, extend their lead in the Eastern Conference. They're now 3 points clear with a game in hand of Charleston. Gleadle came in. Adrian Perez went down in the 13th minute, scores his first for the club. Tosh penalty to withstand Evan Conway's stoppage time goal proves to just be arithmetic. Danny Cruz mentioned post-game. It's worth noting about Conway's goal in particular. We need to be better about closing games out. There's a difference between 2-0 for the final 5 minutes and 2-1. Wilson Harris was questionable, did not play for a second straight game. Kyle Adams is back. Also, 3 straight wins for Louisville. They are 7 wins from 7 at home, plus 23. They are 3-1-2 on the road, only plus 2. All right, Dev, Rhode Island fell 2-0 to Detroit. Rhode Island's only 4th loss of the season. They're still hanging in because they've got all the draws. They're now 0-4-6 against teams currently above the playoff line, despite leading for 112 minutes against said teams. Dequa was out. Amo is back for Detroit. What do you make?
I would say that getting back to basics and sticking to your identity, number one, this Detroit team hadn't gone a game with a shutout. Follow me on that one. I'm looking at it now, and I'm still mystified given where they've come from since May 4th. That is astounding to me for a team that prides itself on being hard-nosed, organized, dense on the defensive front. And I see a couple of things. Getting players healthy, number one, I get that. Restoring confidence, number two. I felt like the team, when I watched them play, deviated from some of that construction, that they kind of they stretched themselves a little bit too thin, which opened up more gaps, and then the ability for them to be broken down on the defensive front. And we always said that for them to take the next step, they needed to find a way to have more goals. They got a taste of that, and I think that success kind of tainted what they were all about. But they got back to it on the weekend. I thought they were brilliant. And for a Rhode Island team that it's just, you feel bad, right? Because they're right there so many times and just can't get over the line. I think that's experience for them, a young organization, and eventually it's going to come.
Notably, Saldana replaces Nate Steinwasser in goal. Steinwasser was available for that game. Saldana was the Open Cup keeper. Charleston got bobbed by Pittsburgh 0-0. There was a picture 25 minutes after the game concluded. Bob still had the team huddled on the field. LOL. Memphis and Colorado Springs finished 1-1. Christian Herrera was outstanding. Shots 28-6. Memphis, but 1-1. Tulsa 2, San Antonio 1. Are there any lingering effects of that game?
Yes, more so on the Tulsa side. I think people need to understand, and we discussed it when they had their Open Cup game that they came out victorious in against the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, how difficult it is to get individuals to Tulsa. What do I mean by that? I mean that it's not exactly Miami. It's not California. It's not known for its soccer history at the professional level. So the glamour side of things is difficult to get guys recruited there. The good news is you have an ownership group that is ambitious. They are with a budget is probably the polite way to say it, meaning they're going to spend on players. I'm hearing a lot of grumblings behind the scenes that guys are unhappy. And it has to do with the relationship in Italy and their basically sporting director, and that relationship between him and the players, and certainly Mario Sanchez at the helm of all of this, it's been very difficult. That's not a knock on the head coach. Apparently that relationship with his players is great, but his inability to kind of keep guys around. I'm hearing a lot of guys could be on the move. So we saw Justin Portillo just go, there might be a bigger name headed out of Dodge and possibly staying in the Western Conference. See if you can follow those breadcrumbs. It's no Justin Portillo news, but one could argue that it could be bigger. And I feel bad because, to me, Sam Dorr and Blair Gavin did a really good job of turning things around, building something, and that it seems to be, at least behind the scenes, headed in a different direction. I wouldn't question Diogo whatsoever. That guy's got talent. He's brilliant. And to me, it's trying to find a way to get that front line together, because it's been scattered and all over the place. And they either look majestic in nature or absent-minded. So
meanwhile, New Mexico 1-0 win over Hartford. Daniel Bruce, 86-minute winner. It was sort of like a Micheletto 22-yard prayer that Bruce is able to deflect. It's like Stanley Cup final goal. Now 5 wins for New Mexico, all by 1 goal. And credit Derek Will. He's saying, true sign of a team that has a lot of talent and a real contender. We're closing games out when we've got a lead. They did it again.
Got to learn how to play, right? I'd make the same argument for this changeover and the young Louisville team. I say that because of new faces, not necessarily ages, where you got to find ways to win when the night's not going your way. New Mexico United have proven it over this stretch. We know they can be on the ball. They can be the aggressor. They can press and make you feel uncomfortable. They can also sit much deeper, absorb, and then play out of their own half and just go the full length of the field, tiki-taka, the entirety of the way. Having Marco Micheletto back in the midfield, Mike, watching how vital he is to this system. I'm not taking away anything else from anyone on the field, but his control of tempo, the ability to step on it, move it side to side, those balls that I talked about from Justin Portillo, stretching a back line to allow some pressure release defensively, but more so getting your guys up, getting advanced. This is everything that Eric Quill said was going to happen a year ago when he came in, right? What did he talk about? We need to be more attack-minded. We need to give our guys the confidence to be on the half turn, to chase the game. We had never really seen that on a consistent basis from New Mexico United. Now you're getting the full taste of what Eric Quill brings to the table, and I am in love with it. I have said from day one, as have you, that the success is going to be there, and all of a sudden, this team is right up there atop the Western Conference. Not shocking whatsoever. Pay attention. They're doing stuff.
Here they go. Oakland 1-0 over Tampa Bay. Cedeno the winner. Final 20 minutes of that. Was a day-night doubleheader with their W League team. They actually set a new club record, 6,400 total in attendance, and suddenly Gavin Glinton's side 3 wins from 4.
Jasiel Cedeno, incredible on the night, just over 90% passing accuracy, 3 shots, 2 of which on target. The great strike, the goal. He was on fire. I would say that his level overall and the versatility that he brings to that team has brought them up another notch. Nice to see 3 positive results in the last 4.
Monterey Bay falls 2-0 to Sacramento after upsetting New Mexico last week. Phillips and Pirano with the goals. Congrats, Jack Kerr. Sent off from the bench for arguing with the official. Dissent. My God, Devon. That sounds like something only you would do.
I've never been happier in my life to see that on the stat sheet. I can't wait to see him in person. I'm gonna pass on what was given to me when I headed to college, my own card book where I was supposed to walk up to the referee with my name on it. I'm going to give it to Jack Kerr because I am that impressed by his performance at the end of the whistle. Had to wait for it.
Jack rolling up on this official like top of the morning to you. All right. Las Vegas 3-1 over Miami. Light's first win since April. That's 66 days, 3 unanswered, including 2 from Corey Bennett. Meanwhile, Phoenix 2-1 over Orange County. Welcome back to Darek Formella. He was in Poland for a month, arrival of his daughter, and then arrives back in Phoenix, bags a couple goals, including the 87th minute winner. When we come back, look at the upcoming weekend in the championship. It's next on USL All Access.
Giving insight to all the biggest moments in Championship and League One. This is USL All Access on Sirius XM FC with Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back to USL All Access on this Tuesday evening with Devon Kerr, Mike Watts. Miss any part of the show, it's available on the Sirius XM app or on the USL YouTube page where you can see Devon in all of his visual glory. All right.
You're full of something today.
Once you bring up my mustard, I just don't know where else to go.
Hot air doesn't do it justice. It's all that acidity building upside you from all of that mustard above you. That's
accurate. Let's chat about the weekend coming up around the championship. Let's start on Friday night. I'm actually enticed by this game. Loudoun in Las Vegas. Loudoun bring in another couple pieces. Let's call them educated gambles. More importantly, Las Vegas first win in over 2 months. There's enough young talent there and perhaps lack of inhibition that I actually anticipate that being a very entertaining game.
I love it. So I have a question for you. Would you like me to talk about the game first or give you the question first?
Well, time is fleeting, so let's go question.
Got it. My question is, and I agree with everything that you said, friendly reminder, Loudoun was off. They're on 3 wins in a row. What is the ceiling for Loudoun? I know this is jumping into segment 4 a little bit, but given the pieces they just added, and I agree with you, what is the ceiling for Loudoun United?
Safely in the playoffs, I'm not quite sure I'm ready to say they should be hosting a playoff game.
They're not a top 4 team.
No,
but you would agree that this team could finish, and I'm just looking at statistically where they're at right now compared to everybody else. If this team finished 6th to 8th, I'm not that surprised.
Not at all anymore, no.
But
we felt that way when we looked at all the vets they brought in over the offseason, too.
Ready for this? Hear me out. I'm making this reference for a second. That connection that was Loudoun and DC, there's still the relationship there, of course. And the way that this team is built reminds me a little bit of the growing pains, but the experience as well that the 2018 Brendan Burke-led Bethlehem Steel team had. Do you remember that team?
Who finished 6th.
Who finished 6th, who went on the road, who beat Pittsburgh in the first round. I'm just saying, there are a lot of similarities there between those two groups.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yes.
Is Chambo going to come back and play?
No chance whatsoever. He's up to fighting weight now, and I love that for him. But I do love the fact they finally got Zach Ryan going up top in the 9 for Loudoun.
They needed
Vegas
that
team, though, man, they can put the ball on the deck and move it, man. I don't know if it's going to get done this year because of how crazy the Western Conference is, but they are building something there. I'm very impressed.
No doubt. Indy and San Antonio kick off the action on Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. That was an Open Cup whooping, 3-0 in Indy last month. San Antonio at least is going to have the internationals back. That's a start. I don't know that that's nearly enough to derail Indy the way they're playing at the moment.
One would argue that it's two immovable objects, because I will say that, and we talked about it earlier, the back line for San Antonio, I don't have an issue with right now. There's been some subtle mistakes here and there, but they are, for the most part, healthy. Now, remember, Carter Manley just got hurt in the last game. He just come back from injury. He went out, so that could be another body that's unavailable for Alan Marcina and the Mentality Monsters. But I do like what they are capable of defensively. I don't think it's going to be enough bodies, and I would probably lean towards Indy once again. The only thing that you could hope is that maybe the influx of games, some of that confidence gets in their way, and they start to chase a result as opposed to chasing the performance, which can happen.
Detroit and Charleston kickoff same time on Saturday night. Detroit first win in 6 in the league. Charleston, a little bit of a slide right now. We'll see if they're able to pick it back up on the road. Hartford will see Pittsburgh on Saturday as well at 7 o'clock. I think everyone could probably make a pretty safe argument. The best game of the match day is Tampa Bay hosting Louisville on Saturday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Why would you say that?
Many a playoff game. Tampa Bay, obviously, Robbie Nielsen's new. It's not to say that every member of both teams have a little bit of blood leaked in this rivalry, but I mean, there's enough. There's more than enough. Rowdies coming off a disappointing loss. Louisville is flying again, although maybe not by as gaudy a margin as they were. Intriguing game on all accounts.
I want to know if I have this idea for the Tampa Bay Rowdies that, let's be clear, Forrest Lasso is a massive loss, right, on the back line. Mm-hmm. But with Jordan Doherty, with Aaron Guillen and how comfortable he is back there, and specifically with Freddie Kleeman, I'm trying to figure out if they need to go get someone in the transfer market. I would say right now, no, because I believe in Freddie Kleeman. I just don't know what those three look like together, and it's been patchwork since Forrest Lasso has gone down. So right now, I think they stay with it. But I do think that could be something in long term that maybe they try and chase a little bit. It's just to lose someone like Forrest Lasso, and remember, when he went down, you're probably looking at a third of the way through the season next year when you're going to get him back, maybe a little bit before.
And then it always takes a little while even after a guy gets back.
Bingo. And working a center back in, a defender, but specifically a center back, has got to be the most difficult thing to do for any position on the field outside of goalkeeper. The difference is goalkeepers are getting reps and getting the you-know-what beat out of them in training. Do we pick one here? Do we go further? I would say that the midfield of the Rowdies has taken a couple of steps, and I've been impressed. Do we need to pick a winner, or do we just talk about the game?
I lean away from picking winners.
Perfect. Is this a prelude to the Eastern Conference Final once again?
I would pay money to watch it.
That's not what I asked you.
I know that.
You don't want to get yourself in trouble again with either team.
No, right now I'm still leaning Louisville Charleston being the way this ends. Like ultimately, you talk about Tampa Bay taking a step in midfield. Isn't that? Let's say that ends up being the 2-3 matchup. Charleston's midfield. Would you take them
over
Tampa?
Yes. And I would say that.
And I honestly I prefer their front two to the Rowdies front two to Charleston's, even with the gaudy early numbers.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say.
So there's a lot of machinations to it.
Yeah, big words from you on a Tuesday night, Mike.
Something like that. I'll say this: Freddie Kleeman's enough for now.
Yes.
If you lost someone else over the next month, I would have either an MLS loan deal sort of in mind or a transfer pickup in mind.
Oh, if they lose anybody else in the back line, this isn't a wound.
Now you need
this
to
is
go,
a scar. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's not go find someone who can eat a few minutes. That would be go find someone who's capable of starting.
No,
there's a difference.
Remember Castellanos, where they got on? Was he with Nashville then? Remember Castellanos? They brought him in. He ended up getting hurt and out for the season. They brought him in.
Yeah,
that was the year that Forrest Lasso was gone when he was playing in Sweden. That's the type of move that you're talking about, to go get someone for the year. If you got into that situation, again, kind of like the Charleston thing, you walk a fine line there going, well, we're okay if, right? Margins are very small.
All right. Meanwhile, Memphis and New Mexico, Saturday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. El Paso and Phoenix kick off at 9. Switchbacks will see Orange County Saturday, 9 p.m. Sacramento, Oakland, that's the precursor to the game that you'll see in July on CBS. In Oakland, this one will be in Sacramento. And then right here on the channel, Sirius XM FC, North Carolina FC. We'll see Monterey Bay Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern time. You can hear it right here on SXM FC. All right, when we come back, we'll take a look at the standings, give you an idea what this actually appears like as we hit June in the championship. It's next on USL All Access.
You're listening to USL All Access on Sirius XM FC. Here are your hosts, Mike Watts and Devon Kerr.
Welcome back, everybody. USL All Access concludes on this Tuesday night. Mike Watts, Devon Kerr. Let's chat a little bit about what the standings look like at this stage. We mentioned a little bit how wonky the Western Conference looked last week. Wanted to make mention as we approach the middle of June here. New Mexico, top of the West. Goal difference is even, 8-3-1. A lot of one-goal wins. I don't know a better way to put it. They've got a winning mentality. Sacramento has a we-don't-lose mentality. 6 draws, only 1 loss. They've only allowed 9 goals. Good luck beating them, but also you won't necessarily lose to them. I think where things get interesting, Dev, is 3rd to 9th. And I know, I'm breaking news here. 2 points between home playoff game and out of the playoffs. So that's Monterey, Phoenix, Orange County, San Antonio, Colorado Springs, Memphis, and Oakland. 7 teams, 2 points apart. I'm intrigued because let's say New Mexico and Sacramento are in, right?
That's the foregone conclusion.
That we feel really good that they'll be in the top 4. Who else is in that top 4?
So I'm going to base my comments on what I've seen on the field of play, okay, in terms of quality. I would put San Antonio in the top 4 still. Because though the consistency hasn't been there, they have been banged up beyond belief. And most of the injuries that they're dealing with, you talked about the international players coming back. Those other guys, they're knocks and bruises that we're talking about at worst, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe. The 4th one is where I'm a little bit more skeptical, we'll say, to throw a name into the hat. I personally have it down to 2 at this point in time, and it would be Orange County or Colorado Springs. I don't know if Colorado Springs is capable defensively long-term of maintaining what we are seeing right now. Mentioned on a previous show that they've closed down so many passing lanes when the ball has turned over. There's not as much free-flowing space, so that even though they're still chasing the game, they're attack-minded. If they've gone really wide, they don't stretch themselves too thin. Like the units move in a much more symbiotic nature than what we've seen in previous years. I just don't know if that continues for a 34-game stretch. I said earlier this year that in terms of organization and the build, Orange County was the most consistent and best team that I had seen. That was about 4 weeks in, to be fair. And that has changed. But so I have belief in both of them. I'm not sure who I would pick out of the 2. If you're asking me to pick right now, I would probably pick Colorado Springs just to kind of roll the dice a little bit. You?
Phoenix. I know.
You agree with San Antonio?
Yeah, assuming they get healthy. That's a big if. We have this conversation every year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming San Antonio is going to get healthy. I'm assuming that the boys in Colorado can kind of lock things down on the defensive front, continue to score goals. There are a lot of assumptions being thrown around. I'm assuming that you're going to send some of that mustard to me, Mike. Who knows?
Yeah, it won't be happening. Playoff line is 17 in the West. Vegas, Tulsa, El Paso, well below the line. Any of those 3 get in?
Vegas.
Yeah. Let's flip over to the East. Louisville, blistering still, 37 goals in 13 games. They're top. Charleston, 3 points off. Indy 11 has won 7 straight games. They've lost to Louisville and Charleston handily. Then you get the Rowdies, Detroit, Loudon, 4th to 7th, 22-20, and 18 points. Then it gets interesting, right? North Carolina, Pittsburgh, and Hartford all within 1 point. Virtual tie for the playoffs. And then Rhode Island's not dead yet. They're on 11 because they've got all those draws. Of that group around the playoff line, NCFC, Pittsburgh, Hartford, Rhode Island, who do you like most?
I'm going to give you the top. I'm going to give you the entire 8 right now. Louisville and Charleston stay right where they're at. Indy and Tampa Bay Rowdies are interchangeable. Birmingham goes to 5. Detroit moves to 6. I'll keep Loudon at 7. I move Pittsburgh to 8. There you go. There's your top 8. Now, 7 and 8 are interchangeable as well, but I think it's difficult. North Carolina's not going to stay there. And the only team that I would give a shout below the playoff line would be Brennan Burke and Hartford.
Yeah, Hartford. Dev, you learn anything from this show?
I learned that it is possible to learn something about food from you. Who knew? Something that wasn't negative, we'll say.
Yep. And I learned, brown mustard is the vital condiment. For Devon, Emmett, Mike, we'll talk to you again next Tuesday night, everybody. Thanks for listening. So long for now.
This is USL All Access. If you missed any portion of the program, listen back anytime on the SXM app.